This video is about the tech news reporting on the RTX 30 series, specifically the RTX 3080 and 3070. Everyone appears to be copying each other. Look at this. This is not even a real value. there, there's nothing where you could get these values from. And here's the thing. This is not even the only site doing this. Notebook check, also wrong. And both of them have it correct in the article. I'm just thinking they're both copying each other's articles and just changing the headlines and texts a little bit. Because that's how it seems to me right now. This is extremely disappointing, and to top it all off, none of them actually looked at the Twitter profile of the leaker in question. Look at this. These how's it called? These block diagrams are directly from his Twitter page. But since this came out on January 20th, so keep that in mind. We just go right to the sources. Somehow they knew about this from January 17th onwards. So they could have theoretically brought out an article back then, which would be wrong, or slightly wrong. But the fact is, none of these sites. Okay, wait, no, that's unrelated right now. None of these sites have actually managed to fact check the source, like what he has to say. Maybe he has something else to say. Not everything has to be in one tweet. Alright, and this is even worse. How does this even happen? Yeah. And they have done it wrong twice. This is not even a base 2 number. There's no way this is gonna work. Well, not base 2, but let's just no. Of course, this is also not a base 2 number, but still. Could have at least checked this, because there is no way you can divide this by 64. Actually, let me test right now. No, you can't. And since they're all assuming that these cards have 46 cores per SM, this is impossible. So they haven't even done the work and calculated it, or, well, are knowledgeable enough about this topic to the point where they should actually write about it. This is fucking terrible. Alright, but here's the thing. This guy, this is not his only tweet. He has posted something the very next day, which is why I'm a little bit mad, which is this. Which is this block diagram of a single SM. This is a little bit more detailed, by the way. More than one tech site actually said, yeah, this could be fake because it's not as detailed as Turing is. This is an actual close-up of the supposed SM. I'm a little bit skeptical myself because this just looks too good to be true. But let's see. Let's compare this. This is not the only leak, so I'm just going to compare this to the rumors from 2 months ago. Yeah. GA100 chip, supposed to be the high performance compute solution for the Ampere generation, and we're looking at 8,192 cores here, which is just it's good. It's well possible. It's not all that unrealistic, but the biggest problem here is how's it called? That all these tech sites just this doesn't fit. Look, this is supposed to be a 3070, 3080, 4,000 to 5,000 cores, okay? This is already more than the leak suggests. And it would not make sense because, I've compared, when you compare Samsung's 7nm, which is what these cards are supposed to be produced on, it's supposed to be quite similar in density to TSMC's 7nm plus process, so you can expect, you can just guess a little bit on how big the die size would be. With all the RTX features and a chip with the with twice the amount of cores that the GTX 1080 Ti would have, you could still reach about the same die size as the 1080 Ti, and that's like 471 millimeters squared, and so that's let's look at this. We would be looking at 7,000 cores here. I'm just scaling it up. Of course, Turing has some other features which slightly bloat the die size, except for the RTX features. So, wait, no, 7,000 isn't actually relevant. We have a 4,100, 4,000, wait, what, no, 471 millimeter square die. And if we, let's say, quadruple that, like RTX features, they kind of take half the die, and doubling the cores as well, so output as is 4x. Maybe a little bit more or less, depending on how much the in32 units take up, but still. Alright, and we would come up at a die size that is just monstrous, and puts the RTX 2080 Ti to shame, so. But here's the thing. It's about as 4x as dense as 16 nanometers. So what we can expect is divide by 4. And now we would have a GPU with about 7,000 CUDA cores, which will still come in around the size of a, what's it called? Of a GTX 1080 Ti. Take this with a grain of salt. I don't know what changes they have made or what changes they're planning to introduce with Ampere, so there might be some things that are bloating the die size, but like if we were just doubling the SMs on a Pascal, well, yeah, I just gotta compare this real quick. There's slight density improvement, so we can think like sub 5% probably. The die size for this strip is 775 millimeters squared, and so, yeah. And if you would double that in size, just double the SMs and get down to 4 nanometers, you would still be looking at an almost 4x improvement in density. So you could still get down to around half the die size. If 7 nanometers is actually that good, and if Nvidia like copies Turing in most parts, like I mean, of course it's gonna be extremely similar to Turing, but like if they don't just add anything that would blow the size unnecessarily. Anyways, let's take a look at this. We're getting double the FP32 units here per SM. I don't know how realistic this is because before, well, actually, let's pull up Turing to compare. We don't need this trash anymore. Oops. Alright, here we have a block diagram of Turing, which just makes this a little bit more realistic because this one is actually a lot wider, and it's gonna be fine. Alright. This should illustrate it quite well. It's a little bit higher, a little bit thinner. This makes this a little bit more believable, simply because it just seems a little bit. It seems just like a high thing to, you know, not high. The effort to do this is kind of unnecessary. Like, yeah. But here's the thing: these FP32 units have been a lot wider on the old block diagrams than the new ones, so this is making me kind of suspicious. But I wouldn't think too much about that now, because block diagrams are not supposed to be actual comparisons in size. They're just supposed to be to give a rough overview over the features, etc, like how it's built and stuff. But yeah, still, it's wider. But there's really not a lot that changed here. Just twice the tensor cores, twice the FP32 units per SM. And so we could be looking at an RTX 3080, which is just twice the cores of what everyone is saying. I don't know, it just feels a little bit unlikely, but at least the twice the tensor core rumor fits with this one. Because this is something that has been predicted by this one 2 months ago. It matches up because this is 16. But this is perfect. Because we're doubling the what's it called? The FP32 units per SM, you can keep the die sizes down even further. Because you don't need to copy everything else. I mean, of course, there are probably going to be changes to everything in there, but still. Still has to be taken with a grain of salt. I'm not 100% convinced this is true. But if you're writing tech news like this, then you should at least take a look at the source itself before you write. Because this came out on January 20th. And when did this come out? Oh, wait. January 18th. From an iPhone. Alright. So, twice the FP32 units, twice the tensor cores. Well, it says here now the performance of the new tensor core is doubled. But I feel like this guy might have been in a meeting from Nvidia and just and understood something wrong. I don't know. Because this block diagram looks actually like it has 4 tensor cores per Maxwell cards had 128 per SM.
I don't know.
Pascal cards had 128 per SM, and so it's not unrealistic to think that Nvidia might double that amount again. Because before Maxwell and Pascal, we already had it. I think Kepler had 32. Wait. 192. Alright, but I was mistaken about that one. Yeah, Fermi had 32, so it's not quite. It's not all that unlikely for Nvidia to go back to a higher amount or a lower amount. So they have done that in the past, like going up, going down, it happens. So I wouldn't be surprised if we would actually see 128 cores per SM. But that would just make these GPUs absolutely nuts. Because that would mean that we are looking at 60x 128, which makes this 7,680 cores for an RTX 3080. And about 6,144 cores for the RTX 3070. And that's just... I don't know. I don't know how how everyone missed this. And it's even doable if you would just double the SM's amount. Because you're gonna get all of that back just by having a better manufacturing process. You have to assume 128 cores per SM. You cannot just assume 64 because Turing had it. It does not work. Especially when he said this on January 18th and all the tech news started on January 20th. There is no excuse to get this wrong. And there is absolutely no excuse to just copy paste like that. Like if you're just gonna look at an article, take out every information and write a very similar article, that's fine by me. But at least check the sources. There is no, like, seriously. There is no excuse for copy paste other tech stories. News to just go out and Jesus, we're supposed to be better than that. Anyways, this would also make sense. This just makes it look like he was attending an Nvidia not conference, how's that called? An Nvidia meeting where he's just where he has his information from, which would make sense if he's saying that GA100 was compared to AMD Arcturus, which had 180 CUs for 128 CUs for high performance computing. But here's the thing, I have not found anything. Oops. It doesn't exist yet. Like, it probably does somewhere in the lab, but we'll see. If it is supposed to have 128, wait, how many cores per SM does Vega have? I'm gonna cut this video anyways a little bit. Jesus Christ. I like block diagrams, they're lit. Wait. Are these NCUs supposed to be streaming processors, or am I getting this wrong? Actually, let's just take a look at Vega 64 and just calculate it ourselves, because I'm not quite sure, so... They should actually give the amount of SMs here. Yeah, 64 CUs. Times 2 to get to AMD Arcturus. Yeah, alright. So we will be looking at if this is if this is supposed to be based on Vega, which is what everyone thinks right now, and has 128 CUs, yep, you can just assume 8,192 cores here, which is why Nvidia is kind of a little bit scared, probably. Like, scared is the wrong word, but they were getting careful now, and yeah. Anyways, this makes sense. Everything here makes sense. Makes sense. Everything here makes sense. Altogether. Also, supposedly a new RT core design, so if this card is launching this year, just expect to DLSS and ray tracing to dramatically improve. But honestly, I mean, as far as I know, shading of ray tracing is still done by these thingies here. So expecting doubling of FP32 performance would help ray tracing a lot. Like, not just a little bit. You actually need this. You need this bit here. Which is also why ray tracing still it's not just being run on the RT core and that's it. That would be magic, it doesn't work. As here this is for bonding volume hierarchy and ray triangle intersections, which is why you can see these symbols here. Not for shading. Shading is still being done by a run-of-the-mill CUDA cores. Yeah, anyways. Thanks for watching, and yeah, bye.